Okay, now the station forms are centered from side to side. Now, I'm going to do one more step, and in this film series, I'm building canoes using two different ways at the stem. So I'm building a prospector canoe and a Rob Roy canoe. With the Rob Roy canoe, I'm building it without an inner stem, okay? And the prospector canoe will have an inner stem. So that way, when you're done watching the series, you can decide which way you want to go, all right? One note about building it without the inner stem is that if you're choosing that method, then you will have to add some material to your canoe just to build onto. So basically you have to raise up and push out your stem form slightly, okay? And that's easy enough to do. You just need to, from the two cut sides that you'll have your right angle that butt up against the previous stem form, whatever thickness of your inner stem, you just add that, okay? And then your stem form will be pushed up and out, all right? So anyhow, this is the Rob Roy canoe, and I'm going to build it without an inner stem. So I need to actually shape my stem form before we start stripping, and I'm going to do that before taking off the string, okay? That way, if by chance anything moves out of alignment, I can check it one more time before taking the string off. Just saves me from having to set it up again. All right? So all I'm going to do is bevel both edges of my stem form at both sides. Okay, now I'm using my rasp to put a bevel on the stem form, and even if you're using an inner stem on your canoe, you'll need to bevel your inner stem. So this is the same process, except in this case we're not using an inner stem. Angle from the station form onto the stem form where they meet up. Okay, now just take a cedar strip and from the station form to the stem form, just run it along, start at the bottom, the shear line, and work your way up. And there should be no major gaps. Okay, now the moment we've been waiting for, we're going to add a cedar strip to our station forms. And I know there's discussion about which side the cedar strip should go onto the boat, whether it should be the bead side or the coat side up. And truthfully, it doesn't really matter, but it does matter depending on what method of construction you're going to build with. So if you're going to go through the process without using staples, so a staple-free construction method, or if you're planning to go with the staple method, you're going to want to think of how you're going to attach your cedar strips. For me, I always put the bead side up, okay, and that's because most of my cedar strip boats are staple-free. And that gives me a more hard edge to clamp down the strips without damaging the cove side. Okay? Now, our first strip is going to be on our shear line, and I would advise that you find a strip that is your least favorite strip. So, in this case, My first strip is Western Red Cedar, and I found a couple strips that don't have a whole lot of color in them, so I'm going to use them for my shear strips. And the reason is, when we're all finished the boat, our gunnel's going to run along that shear line, and it's going to cover up the first couple strips, all right? The first strip for sure. As well as, even before the gunnels go on, we're going to sand and plane down the top edge, so even that might take off, you know, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of this strip. So really, this strip you'll never see, and it's even going to be trimmed away a little bit. Okay, so regardless of whether you're building with the staple method or staple free, it's okay to use a stapler for your first strip. For the same reason, it's going to be covered up, so you'll never see it. So basically what you want to do is just find close to your center of the strip, making sure that you have enough room to curve around the contour of your hull. I've got my cove side down, and I'm going to bring it down so that the cove is flush with the bottom of the station form. Now I'm going to take my stapler and I'm going to drive a staple in. So now I'm going to do the same across the center, that is this section of the canoe hull. Following the entire shear line as I go. Okay, now that we have the shear strip almost fully attached, we only have to attach it at one end or the other towards each stem. Now, it's up to you whether you continue to bend the strip down towards the bottom tip of the stem form, or if you let it run straight across. If you let it run straight across, you'll add some strips underneath and glue them up, or you bend it down and staple and then continue. So what I'm going to do for this video series is on the Rob Roy canoe, I'll bend forward, and on the Prospector canoe, I'll do the other method where the strip will be straight, and towards the stem, I'll glue up from underneath. Okay, now that I've got the shear strip attached on the other side, I've just lapped it over top of the first shear strip, and then now using a sharp pencil, I'm just going to trace where that strip overlaps. Now using the Dozuki pull saw, I can trim close to that line. And my first strip will match up with my second strip like this. After adding some glue between the two strips, simply add a staple to both where the strips come together and to the stem form. Okay, so I've added glue and matched up the other end, and now I'm just going to trim off the excess strip. Okay, now we've got our shear strips attached to our station forms, and we can continue stripping the rest of the hull.